Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Managing Director, Thailand and Head of Indochina at DHL Express, Mr. Herbert Vongpusanachai.
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Thank you so much for your contribution and join with us symposium today. So I give this floor for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kunmancha, and thank you, the Department of International Trade Promotion, for inviting me to this event. Let me just call up the slide so that I share with you some of the presentation that we've prepared. First of all, I'd like to mention that what the previous speaker spoke about is basically what you're going to hear from companies like DHL, because we are a global logistics company, and 2020 and 2021 is really a watershed year, and in many ways. I basically have been with DHL for about 19 years now, and I started in Thailand, but now I'm back in the year 2020. I came back to Thailand, and of course we got hit with COVID in March of 2020. Prior to that, I was running Hong Kong as DHL Managing Director for DHL Express Hong Kong for 4 years. And prior to that, I was former Managing Director of DHL Express Singapore, where I was there for 8 years. I've worked with the Asia Pacific Management Board, and Thailand is for me a trip coming back home. And one of the things that we find is that it means that despite everything that's happening, we now live in a world where uncertainty is the certainty. We are at the point where we are still tackling the uncertainty of the pandemic, which we have not seen a pandemic of this magnitude since the Spanish flu last century, almost 100 years ago to the year. And the complexity that is involved now is that not only do we have the pandemic, we also have the geopolitical trade disputes and political issues between superpowers. We also have the volatility of shortage in supplies in many of the global supply chains. We see a lot of disruptions and a lot of issues in trying to manufacture goods. Meanwhile, there's a lot of political change with the European Union, Brexit, and change in the way in which customs operate. So laws and regulations had to be adjusted due to the change in Europe, and in many ways because of the US sanctions against many other countries. So all this is now basically what we see every year. Now, if you just look at COVID-19, we are at the point where it's not yet under control. Yet, vaccination is still going on worldwide. And recently, we actually received and delivered on the first 1.5 million Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine, which we brought in for the Thai government, which was a donation from the US government. Now, we've been delivering about 547 million doses of vaccines to 147 countries around the world. This is our mission right now. That is to try and help the world get control over this pandemic. And it's an ongoing challenge for the next few months. On top of that, some of the uncertainties that we're facing is something that we've not planned. So, for example, if you remember a few months ago, in the SUEZ Canal, we have a ship, a cargo ship, that got stuck in the SUEZ Canal. And this ship, her name is Ever Given, was stranded across diagonally, blocking the whole canal. Now, this ship alone is already worth a few $100 million in terms of goods, but there are also a few dozen ships that are queuing up to go through the Suez Canal, which is the shortest way from Asia to Europe and Europe to Asia. With this blockage, which lasted only 6 days, a lot of ships had to take a long way around the globe, around continental Africa, and added a lot of time into global supply chain, causing a huge amount of disruption, which took a lot of time for us to try and recover from. A lot of factories couldn't get their raw materials in place. Global supply chain was disrupted, and a lot of goods have to travel via air instead of sea, which add to the cost of goods sold. Now, not only that, then just recently, we also have a port in YANTIAN port in southern China, where it was shut down due to pandemic-related issues. And what happened there was that a lot of goods that are produced in China are exported from this port. And a lot of ships are there to try and take the goods out so that they can continue the global supply chain. Now, it turns out that this issue is actually even worse than the Suez Canal issue, because there are multiple ships that are congested in that area and cannot load shipments. And this mess has become a global problem because southern China obviously is the factory for the world. So these two issues alone cause global supply chain disruption that we're still feeling today, right? And a lot of it is related, because a lot of what we're doing today, talking virtually, requires a lot of electronic goods, a lot of devices, a lot of microphones and cameras and computer equipment. And all of this are manufactured in different places, and mainly they're from China. And with this disruption, there's a huge electronics shortage, semiconductor shortage, and all kinds of goods are now in short supply until today. And mainly it's got started because of all these disruption that went on top beyond what we were expecting from the pandemic. Besides that, there are geopolitical issues between the two trading partners, which is the US and China. The largest global trading lane in the world is US and China. So the disagreement between these two giant economies is fragile at the moment, and we have to wait and see how this is going to pan out. And trade is still fragile in 2021. So what can we do as a company? So as a company, all we can do is we need to commit to ensuring that we provide maximum short-term flexibility, whatever we can do. We have to provide customers with a lot of information on the differences in regulatory issues as the European Union went into a change in value-added tax schemes. The paperwork that's required because of Brexit, and a lot of changing requirements in the United States and as well as China. All of this requires a lot of communication. Now, in the world of the pandemic, everything then has to be done digitally. So what we've seen is that we see this as an inflection point into 4 megatrends. Okay, and they're trends that I think the previous speaker has already mentioned. First of which is digitalization, the need for us to do a lot of complex things and make them digital. This has been accelerated by the pandemic, and some people would say that we're now doing something that may have taken 10 years to develop without the pandemic, and pandemic has been able to accelerate everything from 10 years to 10 months, right? And I'm talking to you from my home, and I haven't been in the office since mid-April, right? So, I mean, life has changed, and perhaps what will come after the pandemic most likely is not going to be the same. So what do we have to watch out for? The pandemic did not cause the global trade to collapse, but instead it has transformed the way in which we connect. And the pandemic itself accelerated this development to e-commerce. E-commerce was already there, and e-commerce was already embedded and growing very fast. But digitalization makes e-commerce even faster, and adoption of e-commerce, both in B2B and B2C, has accelerated. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. The two issues that probably also got accelerated and became even more important: the globalization of the economies. We think that the pandemic would have slowed that down. The acceleration of that partially is caused by the need for us to distribute vaccines, right? For example, this vaccine distribution is something that we take very seriously. The whole industry needs to make sure that we participate well, so that no one company can fix this, and no one country can fix the pandemic if the whole world doesn't work together. Now, on top of that, we also have this new realization that climate change has now gotten to a point where it's almost irreversible. And we're at the point in which we really, as a company, need to really think about how we contribute to the carbon footprint on Earth. And sustainability is now an issue. So we're working towards trying to create more options for green logistics, lower our carbon footprint in terms of transportation, changing of fuel, moving to renewable energy. And for example, we have now embarked on a purchase of some new aircraft that is an electric aircraft, where we can recharge, have a recharging station on the tarmac, be able to get the aircraft flying without using jet fuel. And that's an experiment that we're taking. We've purchased these aircrafts from a company called Aviation, and our planes that you see here will be flying shortly. Now, on digitalization impacted all businesses, and it's a turning point in our history that digitalization is making great companies even better. And we have to realize that it's a big opportunity for us to make things easier and create a new customer experience. We are seeing that logistics is a traditional industry that everyone knows has been there for the longest time since we started trading. But we are seeing a new group of people emerging, the millennials that are now in the workspace. They've grown up and they've become a part of the workforce. Now they have grown up with electronics, with digital experiences. They expect digital experiences both in their personal lives and their work life. So we're seeing that people who grew up on B2C, who's been shopping online, want the same experience on their B2B experience in terms of ordering goods and working with other companies, with business partners. So the legacy processes and outdated IT systems already need to be updated. All this equipment that is in front of me, so that I can broadcast this to you right now, would not exist in a home a couple of years ago. A year ago, I wouldn't need all this equipment, and all of this is now in our homes because we don't do personal stuff and a little bit of work. We now work at home, and a lot of this is now irreversible in many parts of the world. So Deutsche Post DHL Group has developed a strategy 2025, which I will talk about later, which set out a guidance for us to invest over 2 billion on digital transformation from now until 2025 in order to improve customer experience, employee experience, as well as providing a new way in which we can do work more effectively. So for us, what does digital mean? We have already divided into enhancing our customers' experience, developing new types of technology that customers would expect to be able to utilize, and make sure that our employees have better tools, better way of working so that they can do new things in a new way. Training, we cannot train people by flying them around anymore, because right now traveling is an issue. So we have to develop digital training, virtual training. We've also worked on many other tools so that employees can communicate in a virtual environment. For operating efficiency, we're looking at adopting new technology, whether it's AI, developing ways in which we can do predictive and data analysis, data mining, so that our huge amount of data can be utilized to help our people make smart decisions and be able to predict with certain certainty that we have put enough resources into improving customer service, build autonomous devices that can help in terms of transportation, and develop new technology in which our customers would find it easier to work with us. Our couriers also have tools at which we can do route optimization, so they know which route they could take in a day so that they can do a maximum number of deliveries per day. So all of this is now something that's been developing many years, but I would say it has been an accelerated rate due to what's happening in the past 2 years. And we see this big jump in e-commerce, right? It took us 7 years for online share of overall retail sales in business to consumer to move from 8% to 20% in 2019. And with the pandemic, we saw within 1 month how it went from 20 to 31%, right? And higher, and it is still growing. So we are seeing an inflection point, an acceleration of retail sales moving online at an unprecedented rate. And we don't see this changing back anytime soon, right? And we have to make sure that the way in which we do business also have to change and make sure that customers are getting the products and services that they want. So for logistics, what's different? For logistics, we are seeing that online shoppers are looking for delivery options, right? 91% of them are checking out delivery options as part of the way in which they make decisions. And they will stop purchasing if they don't have the options that they want. Some want free shipping, some want fast shipping, some want very fast shipping, right? And 45% have abandoned their cart because the delivery would take too long for them, right? Where they have other options where they can buy somewhere at a shorter period of time, they will abandon that shopping cart. Now, as many of the new shoppers are millennials, 68% of the millennials would choose one retailer over another purely just because they are looking for certain delivery options, right? So before, when you buy, especially in fashion, if you buy at a certain amount, you get free shipping. Right now, we're seeing that there's both a trend that is starting to reverse that trend of free shipping. Customers are willing to pay a premium in order to get their shopping cart delivered to their homes faster. So this is a new trend that is happening, especially during this time that we have to cater for. So when we need to anticipate customers' needs in times of e-commerce, what do? We are now working on capabilities to service all customer segments. We need to make seamless offerings from click to the last mile delivery. You now get an SMS with the link, so you can click in and you get on-demand delivery. You can choose how you want to receive it, when you want to receive it, and if you're going to receive it, do you want to receive it at your house, or you want to change a delivery location? All of this used to require, we pick up the phone and we talk to a call center. More and more, we're seeing people shifting to online. They do it on their smartphones, or they do it on their websites, or some would use chat. So all of this has to be accommodated. In the future, perhaps in Thailand, we need to look at digital assistants, right? It's not common right now in Asia, but as we move towards a world where voice-activated activities become more common, we're going to see more digital assistants. And we also need to build flexibility and scalable digital infrastructure. A company like ours, where we have some people work remotely, we used to perhaps, DHL as a company, we have about 470,000 people around the world. We probably have enough bandwidth and systems to have 10, 20,000 people be accessing the system remotely from work from home. With the pandemic, we have to grow that by 10, 20 times because a lot more people are working from home today. So overnight, we've seen that our infrastructure and the way in which we communicate with customers have shifted from centrally designed offices to our staff working from home and contacting and working with our customers in a distributed fashion, which means our IT infrastructure has to change overnight. And last year was a huge transition for us to move from a centralized country office, regional office model to a distributed IT infrastructure so that our customers can still work with us while we are no longer in our workplace. So with B2C shifting, what we're seeing in terms of digitalization is that as B2C shifts, B2B also has shifted. And what do I mean by B2B? So when our customers in the millennials, they come into the workplace, they also want to order their raw materials, their goods, their supplies in a different fashion. Because with the global supply chain disruption, they need to order goods in different amounts because supply chain is no longer a certainty. They've started to order in lesser quantities. They want the goods a little bit faster. They want other options in terms of ordering, and they want to do it quickly and efficiently and digitally. So B2B sites used to be that we pick up the phone, we ask for requests for quotation. We have representatives of our suppliers come in and pitch their quotation and talk to us. We do bidding. Now all of this has gone electronic. It's gone digital, and the customers want to buy raw materials from their suppliers digitally. And this has created a new environment where e-commerce type of experience is now shifting B2B from its traditional model to look more and more like online shopping for B2C, right? A lot of multinational companies have already moved that way. And now they have websites where customers can go in, log in with their accounts and start to purchase their goods and services. And this is probably going to be the biggest shifts in terms of business. And we see that B2B e-commerce sites as well as marketplaces has already increased by 18.2% to reach around 12.2 trillion US dollars in 2019. And it's already outpacing the market size of B2C sector because this is where the volume is in B2B. So with the revolution in B2B business going the way of B2C, digitalization that was discussed by our previous speaker is already a reality. So the next wave that we have to look at is that B2B e-commerce market would continue to increase, and we think it will increase by more than 70% by 2027. And by 2025, 80% of all B2B sales interactions would take place purely in digital channels. So sales interactions will increasingly become a click experience rather than a face-to-face experience. Also, we already see that at this time, in 2020, B2C e-commerce volumes have already increased 40% within DHL Express network as people shop more and more online. And this has become a norm for us. Our packages are changing in shape and size and weight. It's gotten smaller. The way in which we move goods are increasingly, because our customers move from the office to the homes, the way in which we plan our route has totally changed, because our last mile is now to homes instead of to offices, and the opening hours are different. So what happened to the strategy of the company? And this is where the speakers who are CEOs and chairman of the board of companies are looking at. So our CEO for the DPDHL group, Frank Apple, has clearly stated to us a strategy up until the year 2025. So we usually have a 5-year plan in which we develop our strategy for every 5 years. So in this year, we've already put in place our strategy for 2025, which is delivering excellence in a digital world. And this actually was announced in the year 2020. And we actually discussed this even before the pandemic in 2019 in order to launch it in time. And it was an opportune time because what we think is a trend has accelerated by order of magnitude of 10 to 100%, because we need to go digital very quickly. So our purpose continues to be connecting people and improving their lives. We want our vision to be continues to be the logistics company for the world, and our values has remained the same. But all of this has to be done in a digital world. And what does that mean? I'll go through this shortly. So what this means to the world is that we are going to move towards a 3 bottom lines that we've always focused on, and that has to do with making sure that we provide the best employee experience for the people that we work with. It all starts with people. Our people need to be happy in order for them to deliver the best service to our customers. If we have people who are happy and doing good work, then we can provide the service so that our customers might consider us as a provider of choice, somebody that they'll pick for their next delivery or their next planning for their global supply chain, because we seem to do good work. And only if we have that trust of our customer, should we then have the ability to deliver on the returns that our investors expect us to do. And we have to do all that. At the center of it is to continue to do this while connecting people and improving lives, doing the right thing as a purpose of the way in which we work. And that has to do with making sure that we do everything we can do to help save lives, to transport essential equipment so that economies, global trade can continue, and to make sure that what we do matters. It helps drive global trade. People have to trust us that we will deliver the financial documents that they need in order for our financial system to operate. We bring joy to children, to families that need goods from different places around the world, and make sure that with global trade comes prosperity around the world, where we have an ever increasing quality of life for different parts of the world. And how do we do this? We do this with something that is ingrained in our DNA, and it's called head, heart, and guts, right? We use our head to understand, work, and develop trust with our employees, and have a meaningful relationship with our staff. Meanwhile, using the head to analyze data and strategize without compromising on the respect that we have for our people. And that's our heart, using our heart to understand some of their needs, making sure that our people are motivated and they understand why we're doing certain things, and they understand that it's done for the purpose of connecting people, improving lives. And the combination of both have to be also accompanied with some ability to understand who's the best person to work with you on a certain topic, getting the right people on the right job, understanding how to make decisions when not everything is certain, and that takes guts. So we we always train our people to understand that we have to have a balance of the three aspects of leadership, which is head leadership, heart leadership, and using your own gut. So with that, we have developed this over time, and it has taken us, I think, just the head, heart, and guts concept has been around almost 10 years. And with digitalization, we feel that digitalization has to start with our people. Our people has to relate to and understand why we're doing it. So we do a lot of work in communicating and explaining to our teams that it makes great company better, and that what we're seeing in the market, the shift of e-commerce, of goods moving from different modes of transportation, of our customers changing because it's a new generation of people coming in. They expect everything to be digital. They expect a certain customer experience. So we also have to provide that digital experience to our employees. So we can continue to develop our digitalization tools for our customers and for our people to become more efficient. So a lot of traditional things that we used to do that was correct is no longer applicable, and we have to move to a new way of doing things. And I think what we really have to remember is that we have to do all this with a clear strategy and always related to the purpose, right, which I just talked about, connecting people, improving lives, and make sure that we always start with our people first, because only if our people are motivated, then everything will fall into place. And that's probably an example that we do here in DHL that I can share with you. Okay, so with that, I defer to our moderator. If there's any question or anything that I can help answer, I'd be happy to. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Herbert Vongpusanachai. I think that your presentation and your, for the elaboration of other things that DHL invests a lot in terms of money, invest with the people, and especially when I look at about your vision and mission for the company to expand your business and of course to compete in digital world. So the question is I think very tangible thing that we want to see is that how could your company bring digitalization to everyone in company? I mean, in tangible way, please.
So for us, in like I said, in order to make it tangible and something that people can relate to, we have to have the clear strategy. So if you look at our strategy, it is the message house is surrounded by a digital world. So we believe that the world has already transitioned towards a digital world, and actually it has actually accelerated way beyond what we have originally expected in a 5-year term of this plan, and it has become even more of a key catalyst for us to change. But it has to always start with clear communication, clear strategy with our people. So in DHL Express, we have a clear definition of what is digitalization and a conscious application of technology to enable that for our people. So if you recall, number one, we want digitalization to improve customer experience. That comes first. Customer has to have a better experience with digitalization. Number two, our employee experience has to be digital. Our employees have to work in a more digital environment. So for example, our customer wanted to now pay more digitally. We are concerned about the pandemic, and customers would like to not to have a touchless transaction. So now what we've developed is we've put in Thailand, we have a QR code-based payment system called PromptPay. So we have to embed PromptPay into our scanner so that our customers can pay their duties and taxes to our couriers without using any cash, so that they can just scan on the QR code and be able to pay. So our couriers don't have to handle cash anymore, which is a bonus. Our customers want a way in which they don't have to touch and transact in cash. And this is an application of technology that's available. We put it into the way in which our customer interact with us, the way in which our employees interact with our customers, and that creates an efficient way of operating in this environment. This type of digitalization benefits all parties.
I see. So that's very interesting to invest in the people, of course, with kind of like a vision of that. So for one question is that, I don't know if it's true or not, DHL would like to extend services in sea freight. Is that true?
DHL, actually, we are a number of companies together. DHL Group, our head office is in Bonn. We are already the world's largest sea freight provider, freight forwarder, because DHL consists of DHL Express, which is the business I'm running. We have DHL Global Forwarding and Freight, which is one of the world's largest companies that operate air freight and sea freight services.
So that's great for your contribution and your presentation and your answer about this question. Thank you very much, Mr. Herbert Vongpusanachai, Managing Director, Thailand and Head of Indochina at the DHL Express. So in one day, we hope that between you and me can talk to each other face to face once the pandemic is under control, okay? So,
I truly hope so. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, and keep in touch and take care of your health. Thank you.